What's good, guys? It's Demi M7. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. And today we're talking about a very bizarre story. Earlier today, NBA insider extraordinaire Shams Charania, the legend himself, reported that Bobby Portis of the Milwaukee Bucks has been suspended for 25 games for violating the league's anti-drug policy. Now, when I first read this, I was immediately thinking, okay, it had to be like some performance enhancement type of drug, like steroids or something. That's just where my mind immediately went to. But it turns out it isn't a performance enhancing drug. It's actually a pain medication. The CEO of Priority Sports, the place that represents Bobby, actually came out with a statement, and it's very shocking. He says, "I am devastated for Bobby right now because he made an honest mistake, and the ramifications are incredibly significant. Bobby unintentionally took a pain medication called Tramadol, thinking he was taking a pain medication called Toradol. Toradol is an approved pain medication that he has used previously and that teams and players use for pain and inflammation at times. Tramadol, however, is not an approved pain medication and was just recently added to the banned substance list this past spring. The Tramadol pill he took came from an assistant of his with a valid prescription for the painkiller, which he mistakenly told Bobby was Toradol." So if we're being completely honest here, this isn't even Bobby's fault. It's actually his assistant's fault. He got these two drugs completely mixed up because their names are very close to each other. But at the end of the day, Bobby took it because his assistant got it prescribed for him. Bobby was using this anti-inflammatory pain-reducing medication to deal with an elbow injury he had this past fall and believed he was taking Toradol to alleviate some pain in preparation for that night's game. Now, this is significant for a couple of different reasons. The biggest reason is because the Bucks absolutely need Bobby Portis. I'm not saying the guy is some all-star level player or anything like that, but he is a fantastic role player, especially for the Bucks and their system. There have been plenty of games in Bobby's career so far with the Bucks where he has come out, shown out, and has helped carry the team in ways that even their biggest stars couldn't at times. As it stands right now, the Milwaukee Bucks are the 5th seed in the East, and they basically have lost Portis for the remainder of the season. I think he technically comes back with their last 4 games of the regular season, but still, that's most of the rest of it. But my biggest problem with this suspension is how long the NBA decided he should be suspended for. 25 games? Let's just make sure that we're clear on this. 25 games for an honest mistake that wasn't even Bobby's fault? So let me just make sure I've got this right. Miles Bridges of the Charlotte Hornets got suspended for only 30 games after basically beating up his wife. 25 games for Portis for an honest mistake that wasn't really even his fault, and then 30 games for a literal domestic abuser. Somebody please make that make sense to me. And then, of course, we have Draymond Green, who's had so many different incidents on and off the court of just absolutely hurting players that he was supposed to be suspended indefinitely, but it only ended up being 12 games. Keep in mind, it was in the same year that he not only choked out Rudy Gobert, but he also punched Yusuf Nurkic. Again, completely unnecessary physical altercations on the actual basketball court. Draymond Green only got 12 games. But Bobby Portis makes an honest mistake that, again, I will repeat this as many times as I have to, his assistant was at fault, and somehow he got 25? That makes absolutely zero sense to me. I'm sorry. I actually do think that this is a very big blow for the Milwaukee Bucks because they're losing a bit of that consistency that they had with Bobby. Throughout the season, the Milwaukee Bucks have kind of had this up and down roller coaster. They've had stretch of games where they've looked really good and some stretch of games where they looked really bad. And again, they're the 5th seed right now, and that's with having Bobby Portis throughout the season. As a Bucks fan myself, because I love Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo, this is a big loss in my opinion, and this could really hurt them in these last stretch of games that they have for the season. Now, I also should say it would be irresponsible of me to not mention that this could just be one giant sort of cover-up from the agent talking about how it was an honest mistake, because for all we know, maybe Bobby was taking this drug intentionally. At the end of the day, there are always two sides to a story. There's two sides to a coin. And if that were the case, then it's very disappointing on Bobby's part to do something like that, especially when he plays a very integral part to this team's success. But I'm personally choosing to believe what the agent said. I'm choosing to believe that this was just an honest mistake, that, these two drugs that have very similar names to each other were just mixed up for one another. I understand that that would show some level of, unprofessionalism, a lack of responsibility. I understand all that. But ultimately, for me personally, I do think that 25 games is a bit much, especially considering what we've seen for other suspensions in other situations, like I mentioned earlier. Let me know in the comments what you think about this whole thing, and until next time, peace.